Go. Welcome to today's webinar entitled Writing a Case Report on Research Posters. It's an option for case presentations with Kim Goral Stevenson. This is the fourth webinar in a successful series of 5 that we're doing with the Massage Therapy Foundation. We're very excited about this Writing Case Report series. I will introduce Geraldine Cambron, who is narrating the series, and then she will in turn introduce Kim. So Geraldine is currently the president-elect of the Massage Therapy Foundation. She's a professor in the Department of Research at the National University of Health Sciences. And Geraldine's focus has been on complementary and alternative medicine research, that's CAM, and also evidence-based practice. She's been involved in CAM research for 25 years and has published extensively in scientific literature. Geraldine, welcome back.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. So I want to again thank ABMP for this wonderful opportunity for collaboration with the Massage Therapy Foundation. So far we've had 3 different parts in this series. The first one that we talked about was just where to start writing a case report. And that one covered issues such as how do you choose a case report and where do you decide to submit it and where do you find instructions for authors. The second one was presented by Ruth Werner, and that was about introduction and discussion sections of the case report. So when you're writing a case report, there's an introduction section before you ever start talking about the actual case. And the introduction section is all of the background and the justification and significance of what you're about to say. And then after the case comes the discussion section, and it really folds your case into the bigger pictures, and you discuss what does this case mean in a bigger light. And so Ruth Werner spoke about that during the second session, and then Karen Boulanger spoke 2 weeks ago. She talked about how do you actually report the case. What types of things do you want to include? What don't you need to include? How do you assess whether the client's getting better or not? How do you talk about the therapy? What should you include in that? And so we've already talked about how do you write up the case report. And today we're going to be talking about research posters. But before we get to that, let's take a little poll. So Kim, if you could switch, please, forward the, there we go. So let's do a poll. Did you view session 3 regarding how to report your case?
Great, so go ahead and answer yes or no, and we'll just give you a couple of seconds here to view. We'll see how many people actually were on the webinar last week or 2 weeks ago. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. I'll share the results. And fantastic, 63% were on 2 weeks ago, and 37% are brand new. So welcome.
Hey, that's great. So welcome back, those of you that were here 2 weeks ago talking about how to write the case, and welcome people who are just joining us for the first time today. So as I said, today we're going to be talking about how to write research posters, and I just want to take a step back and make sure that everybody gets what that means. You know, what is a research poster? And let me say this, when a researcher finishes with a research study, what happens is they then want to present their results. And so we see the results in scientific journals, but we also can see research results at scientific conferences. Now when you go to a conference, it's just like a seminar, but there's lots of different scientists talking about their individual research studies. And so they can present their research either through a journal or through presenting at a scientific conference. But there's this third way, which is a poster. And so at scientific conferences, what you'll also see are very large poster boards giving a snapshot of their research study. So it's kind of like a visual presentation. It truly is a big poster, and it stays up during the conference. And so when you're between sessions, you can kind of walk around and look at these. They're usually a couple paragraphs abstracts, and just go through and read them. Now during conferences, there are poster sessions where the researchers will stand in front of their poster and you can ask them questions about it. So it can be very interactive. And the research posters don't have to just be about research. They can also be about case reports. And so that's what Kim will be talking about today, is how do you develop one of these posters for a case report, an interesting case that perhaps you've seen in your clinic. So Kim presented how to develop these posters for case reports at a previous national convention, and she did a fabulous job and was really well received. And so we thought that today we would love to have her come here and talk to you about how she does this. Kim Goral Stevenson has been a massage therapist since 2006. She currently works at the Clinical and Translational Science Institute at Boston University. Her research interest is related to massage therapy and its effects on psychological disorders such as anxiety and depression. And Kim has developed several of these posters and presented them at scientific conferences. So welcome, Kim, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today. Okay, can you see my slides? I'm having trouble
advancing it.
first one, yeah.
Just go ahead and click on the first one, and then you'll be able to advance it with your arrow keys.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So
That might go the other way. There we go.
there we go. Got it all figured out now. Okay, so what is research, and why would I want to make a research poster? It's a question that I hear a lot, and basically, first I want to know is what are people's experiences? Has anyone that's here today, has anyone made a research poster before?
Okay, great. So go ahead and answer yes or no. We're just trying to get an idea on how many people have actually done this before. I'll give you another 2 seconds, and I'll go ahead and close the poll. Great, and I'll share the results. 100% of the folks said no, they have not developed a research poster.
All right, that's good. So that's probably why they're all here today. All right, well, let's start with the first question. What is research? Research can be described as a systematic study examining a specific question or problem. So many of us have questions interrelated to massage therapy. What can massage therapy do? What can it not do? So you might ask a question. So for example, is massage therapy effective at treating carpal tunnel syndrome? And you would develop a treatment protocol and then test your hypothesis. Now, we do this on a very general, basic level anytime that you're working on a client. Somebody comes in, maybe they have a complaint, maybe they have a sore neck, a sore back, and you use your training and you develop your treatment protocol and you address specific muscles that you think might be affected. And then typically during the session, maybe after the session, you check in with your client. How does it feel? What is your range of motion like? And that, in a very basic sense, is simple research. So we want it to be objective, which typically means without bias. You don't want any preconceived notions getting involved. So we want to be able to take some type of objective measures, and you want to be able to have it be replicated again. So the importance of this is if you want someone else to be able to read your study or look at your poster and reproduce the problem, the treatment protocol, and see if they get the same results. This is critical for the growth and advancement of massage therapy. A lot of people don't know what massage therapy can do. And there's a lot of poor information out there, such as massage reduces toxins, or decades ago they used to think that massage couldn't be performed on anyone with cancer. It would spread cancer. And through research we've learned, no, that's not the case. And you can really advance the profession, get a better understanding of what massage therapy helps, how does it help, and through that we can develop better and more effective treatment protocols for our clients. So what are research posters? A research poster is a snapshot of your research project or your case report. So instead of writing a lengthy paper, It's just a quick snapshot where you still include a lot of that same information, but it's a visual aid. It's quick and easy to understand. And you typically, if you're at a conference or if you're in your office or at a health fair, you can talk to people who come up, view your poster, and explain exactly what you did, what your research or your case report was all about. So what are research posters not? They're not a full detailed report. This is not a 10-page paper that you're going to submit for publication. You can certainly adapt one from the other. You can either make a poster from a publication if you have a really interesting case in your office and you say, gosh, I really want to write that up and I want to submit that to the IJTMB, which is the Massage Therapy Foundation Journal. I'm going to submit that, and then maybe I'm going to go to a research conference and submit a poster so that I can tell everybody there about what I did, what I found. So this brings us to why would you make a research poster? And the most obvious answer is to share information. People aren't going to know what massage therapy does unless we tell them. So if you have a really interesting case in your office, maybe you're working on somebody with a certain condition, and after a few treatment sessions you notice, gosh, I'm getting this really interesting result. Maybe you expected it, maybe you didn't, but it's something that's not very commonly talked about with massage. You can write it up for a case report and share it with others. Maybe others will test it and see if they get the same results. Can we kind of start to draw some consensus on this? You can also use research posters to market your business. Say you have a target client that you like. Maybe you love doing sports massage. You work with a lot of athletes. If there's any soft tissue injuries that come in that you just seem really effective at treating, why not do a case report on somebody and display it in your office, show potential clients, this is what massage may do to help you. And again, to promote massage therapy. If we don't tell people what massage therapy can do, they're not going to know that massage therapy does it. It's really all about education. So how and where to use them? As I described before, you may want a research poster in your business or in your office. Again, potential clients coming in or existing clients come in and they can see the work that you're doing and how it might benefit them. If you go to any type of health fair or another event, maybe it's a research conference, maybe it's the AMTA convention, you can describe, again, what massage does. Maybe you have a really interesting case. It's a great way to network, maybe talk with other health professionals. Maybe they're not familiar with massage therapy, and you can really educate them about what massage might be able to do. You might display it in another health professional's office, or maybe you work in a physical therapy office. Again, just educating people about what massage might do. You can bring them to an event your target audience attends. So again, if you do sports massage, maybe you go to a marathon or maybe you go to a bike race and do massage on the athletes there. You can bring a poster to have next to you. It's a great piece for conversation. Talk to people who maybe are not familiar with massage about what you do and what results they might be able to expect. You can also bring them to networking meetings. There's several different groups that allow you to promote your business. And again, if you have an audience that is unfamiliar with massage, you can bring it there and say, look, this is what it might be able to do for you. So this is just one example that I found. It's a poster that I found online. We're going to show this again later on in the webinar. But I thought that it was a nice place to start to show what does a research poster look like. They don't all look exactly the same, so again, this is just one example. But you can see that they have the background information, the method section, and I'm going to go through what all these different sections mean. And really the focal display is looking at some of these charts and some of these tables. And then they have their conclusions and any references that they're citing. So this brings us to our next poll question. If you were to make a research poster, where would you be most likely to display it? Do you think that you have it in your office? Do you think that you're interested in submitting it to a conference or some other type of event?
Okay, great. So go ahead and answer. Business or office, scientific conference, target audience attends, or other. Give you some ideas on where these can actually be of benefit and how to display your work. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Thank you for the 60% that have voted. I'm going to share the results. And Kim, 17% thought they'd put it in their business or office. 21% said scientific conference or convention. And 50%, majority, event your target audience attends, and then 13% said other.
All right, that's great. Well, I'm happy. It sounds like we have a pretty large percentage who actually might be interested in making a poster, so that's really exciting. So that brings us to that big question. How do I make one? You need to understand what information is included. So I'm not going to go into lengthy detail about each of these different sections. Ruth Werner and Karen Boulanger already did a fabulous job with that. If you did not catch their webinars yet, I highly recommend you go back and do so. They'll really dive into these different areas in much more detail. But I'll give a brief overview just so that you can understand what the different information that you need to include is. So first, you're going to start out with your title and the authors. So you want to have a title for your project. Scientific writing is different from maybe a more creative writing. You're generally much more succinct, right to the point, descriptive, but in a very specific way, rather than kind of more flowy or long-winded ways. It should accurately reflect your project topic. So if you're doing a case report, again, we'll go back to carpal tunnel syndrome. So maybe the effect of massage therapy on carpal tunnel syndrome. You want it to be specific to include your topic. You also need to include all the authors. Maybe it's just you. If you're doing a case report, it might just be you. If you're working in a group, then you would want to include everybody who had a really active role. And if you're going to a research conference and you have several different investigators involved, you would list in the order of the amount of work contributed, or if it's in somebody's lab or something, it might be the principal investigator. You can also list your affiliations. So if you have a business, why not promote it? Put your name and your business down. So the introduction section is what it sounds like. You're going to start out with a brief literature review, which basically means you're going to talk about what does the existing literature say about your topic. If you're doing carpal tunnel syndrome, what other research or information is out there about how massage therapy might help carpal tunnel syndrome. There's different ways that you can get this information. There's databases such as Google Scholar, PubMed or PubMed Central. You can Google PubMed. I don't remember the exact link, but that's a government website, and PubMed Central has full text articles available. So it's not just the abstract or brief paragraph about it, but it gives you the entire article, which is really a great resource. I highly encourage you to go to those websites, look at the literature, what does the research say about massage, even if you're not going to make a poster. It's just really great information for us to know that we can be very correct and specific about what massage might do when we're talking to our clients or other health professionals. So you're going to talk about your current project. What did you look at? What was your topic? And you're also going to include the rationale for your current project. So what is so important about the problem that you looked at? Maybe it's something that hasn't been looked at before. Maybe it's a unique condition. Or maybe it's something you worked on a participant that had a common problem, but they had very different results than you expected. It might be worth, even if it's positive or negative results, you might want that information out there for other people to know. And you want to always relate it back to what the previous literature says, if there is any. And you also wanted to talk about your hypothesis. What did you expect to happen when you developed your treatment protocol? So the next part is the method section. And this is broken into three main pieces. So you're going to have your participants. If it's a case report, it's just one person. If you're doing a case series, it might be multiple people with the same problem. You want to describe, general 40-year-old male, 35-year-old female. You want to know who that is and what their condition was. And we'll get back into detail in a little bit. So materials. What materials did you use? Did you use chair massage? Was it table massage? Sometimes people like to know about the specific lotion. Did you use a lotion or either cream or oil when you were doing a massage? And also the measures. What measures did you take? And again, we're going to get more specific into this in a moment. And finally, your procedure. You want to have a detailed description of your treatment protocol and making it detailed enough that somebody else could follow it or replicate your study if they wanted to. So when we talk about participants, you want to know who participated. So either a study or if it's a case report, maybe you're working in your office and you're working on a specific problem. So what's the gender? What's the age of the person? You want to give information about the problem that you're looking at. What's their diagnosis? Who diagnosed them? What are their symptoms? Have they had any other treatments to date? And you also want any other pertinent information that might influence the study or the outcomes. One thing to always keep in mind is you always want to maintain confidentiality. I know that we already know this as massage therapists where we don't go talking about who our clients were. But this is especially important when you're doing a case report and a poster, you're publicizing your work that you're doing. You want the person that you're working with, first of all, you need to have consent from them, but also you want to make sure that they stay anonymous. People can't identify them from your descriptions. That's really important. For materials, you want to include information about the equipment that you used. So again, did you use a massage table, a massage chair, and what measures did you use? Do you have a pain scale? Did you use an anxiety scale? There's actually a really great resource that Karen shared in her webinar. It's called outcomesdatabase.org. I was not familiar with that, but I went to look it up as soon as I heard about it from her webinar, and it was really interesting. It has a lot of existing measures, and while we're on this topic, we'll go to the next slide. She's got a lot of great measures. I had said in here when I was making my presentation that you can develop your own measure, a simple one like a pain scale, for example, which I have here. But after seeing that database that she talked about, it really makes sense to use an existing measure if you can. And if you watch her webinar, she'll go into more detail about that. But in a nutshell, to validate a measure and make sure that it's reliable, it's accurately measuring what you're intending to measure and consistently, it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of precision involved. And there are many different measures looking at quality of life, pain, stress on this database. Some of them are free. Some of them you need to pay for. But I would strongly encourage you to look at that and maybe even just incorporating some of these measures into your practice. It's always great to be able to do that, and this ties back to being objective about what you're researching. So for your procedure, you want to have a good description. I remember learning about research and about the method section, and our teacher giving us a task of telling somebody how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich who had never heard of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before, and how specific and how detailed that you need to be. So you want to talk about recruitment. How many sessions did you have? How long was each session? How frequent were they? The type of massage that you did, areas that you worked on, and again, going back to the measures. You can also describe the setting if it's relevant. It might not always be relevant, but it could be a unique situation. So this is all things, again, as succinctly as possible that you want to be able to share on your poster. So when we get to the results, you want to show what did you find. This is not the place where you interpret the data. You just stick to the facts and say, this is what I found. This is kind of the meat of your poster, really the results in the method sections. This is where you're going to have your charts, your tables, and you can include pictures. Again, if you're going to use pictures, you just want to make sure that if you're taking a picture of your participant or your client, first of all, obviously that they know about it, that they consent to it, but also that they are blurred in some way to make sure that they're not identifiable. Somebody looking at it is not going to go, oh, that's Joe. I know Joe. That's really critical. So again, this should be the main feature of your poster. You can include any data analysis, and it doesn't need to be very sophisticated. Simple before and after measures. Say, for example, you're using a pain scale. Maybe you ask them to complete the pain scale when they come in before the treatment, and then you ask them again after the treatment. So you'll have two measures for each treatment. You can make a table or you can make a chart or graph showing the changes in the pre to post, if there are any. You might also be able to track changes over time. Maybe you're doing 5 sessions or 7 sessions with this person, and you can really see if there is a trend over time. Is there pain getting less from one session to the next? So the next part is the discussion and conclusions. So this is the interpretation of results. What do the results mean? You always want to relate the findings back to your introduction and what the literature said about previous research on this area. So if you're doing carpal tunnel syndrome, we'll stick with the same case. Previous literature says X. I worked on this person who had this condition. This is what we did. These were the results. These results are consistent with previous findings, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're contradictory to previous findings. That's where you really want to tie it all together, bring it back full circle. You also want to acknowledge any limitations. So one really important thing to keep in mind, especially if you're doing a case report, is that a case report, it can show some really interesting information, but it does not prove cause and effect. So you can't study one person, do a series of treatments on them and say, ha, massage made it all better, the problem was gone, it was massage that did it. There's different things that could have happened. They could have just naturally gotten better over time. Maybe there was something else going on, another treatment that they were having concurrently. You just can't draw those conclusions from a single study. So you want to acknowledge that. Having said that, again, case reports are still great. They're still very beneficial. They're kind of the grassroots of getting research going. Somebody does a case report on an interesting condition. they get some really neat results and they publish it, and somebody else might pick it up and say, wow, that's really interesting. Let's do a larger study on that. Let's really dive into this and see what's going on there. So that's not to minimize the importance of case reports. And you can also talk about future research. So what were your findings? How did they relate back to the previous literature? And where should we go from here? Where should the research go on this condition? What do you recommend? So some overall tips and suggestions. Due to limited space, you really just want to focus on a few key areas. Again, this is not a full paper that you're going to publish. This is, you have one poster and limited space to include a lot of different information. So pick a couple key things from your case report. Again, if you're doing maybe 2 measures, maybe you're looking at pain and maybe stress, or maybe you're looking at pain and anxiety. You really want to focus your graphics, your charts around that. Again, making your charts the center of attention. You really want the audience to be drawn right into there. And we're going to come back to that example that I gave before of the research poster. You want to make your posters visually pleasing to the eye. You want people to be drawn to it, not intimidated by it. So you don't want to overcrowd it. White space is always good. Bullets are generally easier to read than full paragraphs. You want somebody to come up and be engaged in your poster and want to stay and read the whole thing because it's not overwhelming, just a bunch of text. Graphics are a really great way for people to understand what the results were. And keep your audience in mind. Are you at a research conference, or are you in your office? Are you going to an event, maybe an athletic event? You really want to tailor your poster to the audience that's going to be viewing it. Generally, a scientific poster at a conference is going to be very professional. There's going to be certain things that you want to include, whereas at your office, maybe you want to have a little bit more fun with it. Maybe it doesn't have to be quite so polished, not to say that you don't still want it to be professional, but maybe you can just have a little bit more fun with it. And for other tips on scientific research posters, this was a really great article that I found that I read a while ago. If you Google the title of this, Preparing and Presenting Effective Research Posters, you'll be able to get the full text article. I thought it was very helpful, so hopefully you will too. So here's just one example of a template. In this template, it's 4 feet by 8 feet. That doesn't mean every research poster is this size. Again, this is just one example. But you have the title. You want it to be a key feature, large text, the authors and affiliations, still large but not quite as large as the title. You can include, if you have a business logo, your website, any contact information, you can put that all right across the top so that people know, okay, this is who did this poster, this is what it's about, and this is how I can get in contact with them, this is where they're from. Right up front. You can include a summary below, you don't have to, but you can include just a short summary, a couple of sentences about what you learned. But it's really the other things, the background, which we talked about, which would be like your introduction, your objectives, what was your treatment protocol, what did you expect to find, your hypotheses, and your data and your method section. So again, talking about the procedure, what were your measures, who were your participants. We want to include all of that. And front and center, the variables in your results. That's where your charts are going to go. Your charts, your tables, really showcasing the key findings of your case report or your research project. And the study implications, you can also include limitations and references, which are very important too. Anytime that you're talking about previous literature, you always want to cite that in a reference section. Give them credit, and it's also a great source. You know, if I go and look at somebody's poster, oh wow, that's really neat information, I'd like to read more about that. That's what the references section is for. So you want to include any articles, any previous literature, or anything that you're referring to in your poster. So this is going back to the image that I showed before. This is the same poster. Again, now that we've gone through what do the methods mean, what does the results mean, just take a look at it to see what information they include. I know it's probably a little bit small to read. I did include the link so that you can look at it on your own time and probably enlarge it to get a better idea of what they include. You can also Google research posters, and you'll see a wide variety. So again, there's not necessarily one right or wrong template. People will do things a little bit differently, and as long as you include all of this information, you know, in a logical order, you'll probably have a pretty good poster. So some quick reminders for you. There's limited space on posters, so you really want to use the space wisely. Again, really focusing on your charts, your tables, your graphics, talking about including as much background information without that overtaking your current project. It's really important to get an idea of what the previous literature is, but you still, the poster should be featuring your project, your case report, your study, whatever it is that you're trying to showcase. You want to include just the most relevant and important information. There might be other things that if you were to write a paper, maybe you're going to do a full case report and send it to the IJTMB for publication. That's where you can include other information that maybe didn't fit on your poster. And remember, if you're going to an event, you're going to be there to talk to people and present your poster. So you can either make an additional handout, you can verbally tell people some other information. Maybe there was something that you thought was really interesting but not really the focus. That's really where you can talk about it and explain other things that maybe the poster did not have room for. So there's some changes between settings. Again, a research conference is probably going to be your most formal, traditional. You're going to want to use research language, scientific writing, versus maybe an office. Maybe you're going to use more layman's terms. You're really going to gear it towards who is your client, who's going to be seeing it. You can have some fun depending on the setting and what your goals are to showcase it. Maybe you can include different pictures or use different colors, more bold colors or fun colors than maybe would be appropriate for a traditional research conference. A health fair might be somewhere in between. You always want it to be professional. That might be the most difficult with the wording. You want it to be scientific enough for other health professionals, but if there's going to be just the general public there too, you want them to be able to read it and understand it as well. So again, you really want to focus on who's your audience, who's going to be seeing this, who are you going to be talking to, and remember that you probably will be there at least sometime to answer questions and really describe your project. And you can also have educational posters. It doesn't just have to be a case report or evaluation of something. Maybe you work at a hospital and you work in an integrative medicine program and you want to showcase all of the therapies, or maybe there's been a study done at your hospital that shows that massage decreases the length of hospital stay after a procedure or something. You can use posters for that. You can use them for educational settings if you're in a school, maybe you're a teacher, a massage teacher, and you have a certain class or activity, some type of I don't know, some type of lesson plan or something that really seems to be effective, and you want to show it off. I believe ABMP has a, Brian, you said that there was an educational conference?
Yes, we have.
That correctly?
Yes, we have something called the School Issues Forum that's coming up in April. This year it's going to be in Maryland, in Annapolis, Maryland.
Okay. So there could be other gatherings also for educators. So this would be a great way to maybe show something off from your school. Okay. And I think I had, was there another poll? Did I pass it?
There was another poll.
Brian, do you know?
Yes, sorry, there's a little bit of a lag once I unmute my microphone. So there is another poll.
Oh, that's okay.
Let's go ahead and launch it now, because I don't think you've passed it. Is that the end of the slideshow, dear?
Yeah, for the most part. I was going to just remind people to have fun.
Okay,
Really encourage people to submit to the case report contest too.
Okay, great. I want to go ahead and launch the poll then. And the question is, how likely are you to make a research poster? So having heard the presentation today, does your enthusiasm increase? So are you very likely, are you unsure, or are you unlikely? So hopefully you're going to, of course, choose very likely. It means we've done our job. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Thank you to the 67% that voted. I'm going to share the results. And Kim, yay, you did a great job. It's pretty much evenly split. 46% said they're very likely, and 54% are still on the fence.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a little while to get used to the idea, and I understand it can be perhaps a little bit daunting, but I assure you, once you really dive into it, it can be a lot of fun, especially if you're, you know, a more creative person, which, you know, most massage therapists are. You can really just have fun with organizing it, choosing the layout, and really just getting into the content. Maybe I'm just a research geek, but I think it's a lot of fun. And doing the case reports, doing your research studies, even in your office, not a full-scale study, but a case report or case study, it can be great. It's a great way to learn.
Well, I completely agree, and I'm very excited about the whole thing, actually. I have a science background as well, and I'm like, God, what a great way to market your practice. You know, if you take it, or to connect with a researcher at a conference and potentially do research for them. I mean, really, really fantastic. So a few questions came in. Is it a good time to ask you these, Kim?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, great. So let's say we want to do a research poster, submit it to a conference. How does one go about doing that?
How do you do that? That's a great question. Generally, they'll have a call for proposals. So, for example, the AMTA, American Massage Therapy Association, has a national convention every year, and I know ABMP is a part of that. And they will have a call for proposals. So generally what you submit is an abstract, and you want to go and look at the guidelines before you write your abstract. And what that basically means is you're going to write a few sentences about each of the sections that I walked through, so your introduction, your method section, your results, and your discussion. There will usually be a word limit, maybe 200 or 300 words, and you fill out all of your information in the different sections, and you'll submit that, and then they will contact you to say, yes, you've been accepted, or maybe they'll have some revisions for you. But that's generally how it's done. You want to go to the event organizer that is holding a poster session, and they should have some information about how to submit an abstract and what the details that they're requiring are.
Okay, very good. And now how do we find out about conferences? You know, you referenced the AMTA, and I spoke earlier about the ABMPs, and I know that the Massage Therapy Foundation has an upcoming conference too, so how do you find out about these?
They do. The Massage Therapy Foundation is a great resource for obviously massage-related conferences, research conferences, and there is one coming up in April. Registration is still open. It's going to be in Boston, which is very exciting for me because I live just north of Boston. So it'll be in Boston, Massachusetts. I believe, Geraldine will help me out, I think it's the April 25th to the 27th or 28th.
She's unmuting. I believe that's correct, actually. I think those dates are spot on.
I believe it's that Thursday.
Sorry, I have to unmute.
That's okay.
It's April 25th through the 28th, yes.
Okay. So it will be that weekend. I went to the last one in Seattle, and based on that, I expect great things from this conference. I would highly encourage anybody, if you're local, if you're not local. Like I said, I went out to Seattle for the last one, which was in 2010, and it was just a great time. Really brilliant people getting together to share the latest research on massage therapy. It's just fascinating. You'll meet so many great people. Otherwise, I would just Google is your friend. I'm not sure that there's necessarily one website that would have information about all different conferences. But the Massage Therapy Foundation is a good place. They're a good resource. Geraldine, do they have information about other conferences, right? Didn't they have something about like the Fascia Research Conference?
Correct. We try and make sure that all massage therapists are aware of all the different conferences going on across the country. And so you might see them in blogs or press releases or on the website.
So that means you would need to be on the Massage Therapy Foundation email list? Is that a good way to do it?
That's a great way to do it.
And so they can just go to massagetherapyfoundation.org and sign up for the email list. Okay, great. Okay, moving on. Kim, let me see who submitted this. Selena is asking about sizes of the posters. And I know you mentioned that they don't have to be the same format and everything, but is there a particular size, or is that dictated by the conference?
The conference will usually tell you. They might not have a size minimum, but there will generally be a maximum limit, and that could be dependent on the number of posters that they're trying to fit in. So the template that I showed, that one example was 4 feet by 8 feet. I've seen posters that are maybe 3 feet by 6 feet or 4 feet by 6 feet. Generally speaking, they're going to be fairly large because you have a lot of information to include, and you also, the text size is going to be larger than if you were just writing on paper, so that it can be read from a distance. You don't want to have to be, you know, your eyes right up to it to be able to read it. You want to be able to read it from several feet back. So I would say that for at least a research conference, you're probably not going to see much smaller than 3 feet by 6 feet. Now, if you were going to an event or having it in your office, you could certainly be more flexible on the size depending on the space available to you.
Right. And Selena's follow-up question, so these are always on like a poster board material or something? They're not put on banners or anything like that, are they?
No, if you go to, I believe, a place like Kinko's, they might print them. I've always printed mine at whatever university that I'm presently at. So
okay.
You can probably go to like a Kinko's, and yeah, they're usually like a laminated paper, so that it's durable, so that they can roll up and they're not going to rip or tear. And you can do it just on paper, but you risk ripping it or, you know, spilling something on it.
Okay, great. Perfect. Let's take Vicky's question. She said that the different sections of the research poster are pretty much identical to those of a case report. Which parts of a case report or a poster would you have to modify? And I'll start there, and then I'll do a follow-up question after that.
Okay, that's a great question. Yes, they basically are contain a lot of the same information. Your poster is going to be a lot more succinct, again, because of the limited space. So where would you cut? You might have to cut in the method section, really describing your procedure and your participant in as few words as possible while still giving good information.
Mm-hmm.
You might be able to elaborate more on that in your case report that you would submit to publication. Also, your results. You may take several different measures when you're doing a case report. Maybe you're interested in 4 or 5 different things to see, what happens. Perhaps only 2 of those give you, any significant or really interesting findings. For your poster, you would probably just highlight those 2. But maybe in your case report you talk about all 4 or all 5.
Okay, great. And follow-up question, are there mentors available or any other resources that could help one get started? I know you mentioned Googling research posters, but what else would you recommend?
That's a good question, and it's a difficult question. As for mentors, yes, I would, I guess, suggest finding a massage therapist or somebody maybe who works with massage therapists either in your area, maybe not in your area, and just contacting them. That's actually how I got into doing research. I was practicing massage therapist and had my bachelor's degree in psychology from before I went to massage school, and really kind of always had this running joke like, oh, haha, maybe someday I'll study the benefits of massage therapy on anxiety and depression, and the idea just kept gnawing at me. So I finally found a researcher, Christopher Moyer, who was in Wisconsin, and it turned, it started as just, hi, I'm interested in research, how do I get started, to, okay, I'm moving to Wisconsin to go get my master's degree to learn how to do this. So,
great story.
You never know where it might take you. But yes, I have found massage researchers to be very approachable, very nice, very helpful. I can't guarantee that they would have a ton of time to walk everybody through everything, but it never hurts to ask. Find somebody who is interesting to you and, send them an email. See if they can help you out.
Okay, great. Now, you mentioned massage researchers. Now, suppose I create a poster, I take it to a conference. Will researchers really want to talk to me about one single client?
Sure. I mean, again, a case report is not this great, profound, clinical trial that's going to have cause and effect. But case reports can give very interesting information, particularly if it's an area that doesn't already have a lot of existing research behind it. So if you have a client with a unique situation or just one, again, that hasn't really been researched much, case reports can be great, and sure, other professionals would be interested in talking to you about it. Maybe they don't know a lot about massage therapy, or maybe maybe it's a doctor who specializes in the condition that you worked on, and they say, oh, that really massage helped for that? How so? And they just might be interested in learning more about massage. So sure.
Okay, great. Now, along those same lines, Jennifer is asking a question. If you can actually create a research poster of a paper that you did not create or publish, but you want to present it to a particular target audience, and as long as you attribute the work appropriately, is that acceptable?
I would probably suggest contacting the individuals who did it. Perhaps the setting would be different. I mean, I think if it's maybe something in your office, you might be able to just present it, but you would not present somebody else's work at like a conference, for example. I probably wouldn't even do it necessarily at like a health fair, unless maybe you wanted to make a poster that kind of is a summary of massage on a certain condition. and it's a summary poster, maybe not explaining something that you did, but just general, this is what the literature says about this. I would still probably tend to contact the investigators just to get their permission, maybe their input. I would hate to, if I were doing it myself, for example, I wouldn't want to misinterpret something that they have said or done or misrepresent something. So it's always a good idea to get permission first.
I think a great idea. And just along the ethical boundaries there, and this would be applicable to actually writing a case report as well, Kelly is wondering, do research participants, are they generally paid for the treatment? Do they have to sign any waivers? And do you tell them that they're part of a case report or case study?
I'm going to answer part of this question, and I'm also going to defer to Geraldine on this also.
Okay.
The first answer is anytime that you're going to write a case report, either to submit to publication or you want to make a research poster, you definitely want to have permission from whoever you're writing it about. Also maintaining confidentiality too when you do your paper or your poster. Sometimes your case reports, as Geraldine talked about in her webinar, they might be retrospective where you are working on an individual for a given number of sessions before you really had some interesting results, and you go back through your notes and you can write that up. You still want permission from that person to be able to do that. And a prospective client, you might have somebody come in or seek somebody out with a certain condition. As for the payment, I would think that you would still treat it as a regular massage session. I mean, you certainly could offer to waive the fee, maybe if it's a condition that you're really interested in working on, and maybe if the person doesn't have the financial means to pay for a certain number of sessions, that might be required. But I'm also going to defer to Geraldine on this.
One of the things we have to be real cautious about is coercion, and the U.S. has laws about doing research and what you can and cannot do, and research is supposed to be overseen by a governing body, an ethical committee. They're usually called the IRB. And the IRB oversees to determine, is everything you're doing ethical and upright, and you're not coercing, and all of those types of things. And so, it kind of raises the question, well, can we do anything then? Well, yes, you can do your regular clinical practice, and after the fact, if it was something interesting, then write it up. Now, sometimes what massage therapists will do is say, the next case that comes in with carpal tunnel or something like that, I'm going to consider that as being my next case report. Well, what that really means is you should make sure you take really good notes, be real consistent about measuring your outcomes, just be a really good massage therapist, and make sure that you're following all of your own rules to make sure that you can write the case report in the end. But if you're trying to, quote, do research, you really need to have ethical oversight. And so if you come up with a new technique and you want to invite 50 people to come and try that new technique and you'll pay them, that's research, and you have to have an oversight committee for that.
Great, great. Well, excellent answer, Geraldine. I'm actually going to invite you to hold on for a second. Kim, fantastic, wonderful presentation. I learned a lot, and we're getting some feedback. People learned a lot, so hopefully it really inspired folks to create these posters, both from an artistic standpoint and the scientific research standpoint. So thanks for sharing your information and your time today. I sincerely appreciate it. Great. So Geraldine, would you be interested in talking about the next webinar and the final webinar in our series, which is next Wednesday?
Oh, I'd love to. So next seminar, we have Rose Chunko, who's going to be talking about her very own experience. She's a practitioner in the field, a massage therapist in Texas. And one day she decided, you know what, I want to write up a case report. And so we invited her to come and present her story as to how did she actually go about writing up a case report, what was her experience, how did she get it published, what types of problems did she have. She even presented at a conference, and so maybe she'll give us a little bit of information on what was it like as a massage therapist to stand up in front of a crowd of researchers and talk about her case report. So it's going to be a very exciting time. I think that if anyone is truly interested in writing a case report, whether it be a poster or a case report manuscript that's submitted for publication, you'd learn a lot from Rose because she's actually done it, and she's quite funny and interesting to listen to as well, so it'll be a good one.
And she's got a wonderful accent as well.
She does, yes. Irish.
Yeah. So as Geraldine said, a great way to end the series. Get personal experience, great person to ask questions in case you're a little unsure, still thinking about sticking your foot in the water. So please attend. That's next Wednesday, and I'll give a little slide here in a second. Next Wednesday, March 20th at noon Mountain Time. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Geraldine, for hosting this series. I sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
And we'll see you next week. For those of you that would like to stick around for about 3 minutes, I'd like to show you how to get to the recording